Let me introduce myself. My name is Manoj Agarwal. I'm the group editor, the founder editor at Banking Frontiers magazine. So our topic today is outcome driven transformation through automation. Automation has been a constant human endeavor for ages, and I think as society, as a civilization, we're getting better and better at it. So in that small niche of BFSI, let's see how we are evolving.
Hi, my name is Gautam Rastogi. I'm an executive director with JP.
I'm Sundar Krishnan, Chief Risk Officer of Reliance Nippon Life Insurance.
I'm Vaibhav Agrawal, currently working with NSDL for almost more than a year.
Yes,
I'm
please.
Sanjeevan, Senior Vice President IT from UTI Mutual Fund.
Hi, my name is Anish Chaudhary. I head the retail digital business at Yes Bank. I've been associated with the bank since last 15 odd months.
This is Jogesh Pradhan. I'm from Union Bank of India. I am in Department of Information Technology.
This is Maheshwar Pathak. I head the IT stack, full IT stack for IDPI Intech.
I'm from UiPath. I head the enterprise business. I'm based out of Mumbai.
I'm Nitin. I head the financial services industry practice for UiPath.
Hi everyone. I'll change the monotone, that transformation. I have not transformed. I'm a technologist for last 2 decades. I've been with UiPath for 4 years now.
Hello everybody, I'm Arun Balasubramanian. I'm Managing Director for UiPath, India and South Asia.
Now as an MD for UiPath in this region, can you give us like a 2-3 minute overview of what you see as some of the most important trends in automation, some tangible, some intangible maybe?
No, absolutely. Thank you so much, Manoj, for that. And firstly, before I really go dive, so I truly believe that banking is and financial services is truly testing the strength of the country, and you are all playing a very, very important role as far as the banking thing is concerned. But it's not coming without its own set of challenges. Banking is transforming. And transforming because I would say, from the customer point of view, customer acquisitions, you want to create a customer experience, and your customers are also changing. Over 65% of the population of India is less than the age of 35. So you're seeing the young, new age people who are coming, who are demanding more and consuming more and more technology, and they are demanding the technology-based experience, the digital experience from all of you, right? So that would mean that what worked yesterday, you would have to transform to be servicing the customers of today, and probably transforming even more as you look at customers for tomorrow, because with ChatGPT, AI, and other things that are coming in, we really don't know how things are going to transform. So you need to be in the cutting edge of technology. So that's one aspect of the challenges that we look at. The second is regulatory. There are so much of regulatory compliances that you need to really deal with, and regulators are constantly, giving you new guidelines. And how do you quickly adapt to that, comply to that, and making sure that, you stay relevant to what the regulators are asking for. So that's another set of challenges. And third aspect is also about social. And you touched upon it, Manoj, like how banking is playing a very important role as far as social is concerned, inclusion, rural banking, bringing more and more. Government is launching new subsidiaries, and wanting to bring more inclusion into banking. How's financial services ready and prepared to challenge those challenges that are coming your way, right? But these challenges are also opportunity. With technology, I think we can make a lot of things simpler. At UiPath, we really take a lot of pride that we are serving over 1,700 plus customers globally on the financial services side. And if you were to look at India specifically, 4 out of 5 banks are using UiPath technology to progress their automation and digital transformation initiatives. And if you were to see how we are doing that, in terms of we are looking at the core automation. And if you look at it, whether you are from retail banking or corporate banking, what we understand is over 43% of those processes could be automated, which would mean that, your ability to really bring more efficiency and automation into your processes is pretty much there. And that really helps you progress what you really want to be achieving. And if you were to look at how the evolution of our company, we were RPA company, which was more focused on taking the cost out and providing, more automation benefits to the CFO, which mattered at one point in time. But now, as the company has evolved, we are now a business automation platform, creating more transformations in terms of how we could look at in-depth the process mining, process re-engineering, and look at automation benefits that we can bring to you. So I think landscape has evolved quite a lot, and we really take a pride with our association with the banking, and this is one of the most important industries that we also feel that it is important that we participate and we are able to help, because this is the most complex one as well. The kind of challenges that you deal with is second to none. No other industry would probably be seeing these kind of challenges.
So let's start with customer expectations and customer experience.
Specifically in BFSI, okay. Now the customer experience, like, it's not navigation. Forget about navigation.
Okay.
How do I support him to make a decision in finance? How can make him his own fund manager, okay, by not only providing him the core application, but supporting the other information where probably these areas were missing earlier. Now the customer demand is like, if I invest in a particular investment, can a company provide me an help? Can I switch it for some time? Can I park it somewhere? Can I become aggressive? Looking is the profile of that investor. What is his age? Can I pitch him? Market is down. Can I pitch him equity? Can I pitch him debt? Okay. So things are moving very fast, and it is a technology that becomes inhabitant. If you go to ChatGPT, things are becoming very faster, and that is getting inculcated into human and children. So now you can see the way they are going to see the technology.
I think it's a very difficult question in an Indian context. Number one, I think financial inclusion as a word will go away soon. Reason I say this is a very strong statement, because if you see the consumption that's happening of internet and various other technologies, the moment you use the word inclusion, you're almost saying that there is a condescension out there. There's a part of the population which doesn't know how to take decisions. They're disempowered, and therefore they have to be included in the mainstream. I think that era is going past because of digitalization. There's a democratization that has happened, and even the last mile has now started expressing themselves because of the overall social constructs that are changing. So I think from financial inclusion, now we are moving into layers of society where, depending on their income and socioeconomic status, various consumers are going to express their choices. So it's moving away from empowerment to choices.
Okay.
And therefore, how does technology play a role to make those choices better and more accessible? Number one. Number two, therefore, if you look at finance overall, there are 4 things that a retail customer wants to do. Either that person wants to grow, to invest, to transact, or to save. And therefore, finance has become a commodity, because the color of money is the same. And at the end of the day, it's billed to a certain price point. I think the difference is, how can you create value beyond the commodity, the differentiation? And therefore, if I am a customer, where should I invest? If I have to transact, can you embed finance in my experience? The key is, how do you make experiences meaningful for customers, more relevant for customers as per their needs? So n equal to 1, each individual is unique. That's going to be possible thanks to the technologies.
One more dimension is the speed and simplicity of approach to customers. So you need to identify your customer quickly, and then quickly translate the customer's needs and address that through automation. The more time you take, the younger generation, especially if you notice, they don't have time. Neither they have patience to go through several screens and waste time. They say they give up. So the expectation is to quickly address the needs, very timely way, and keep it simple, so that you address the needs quickly, accurately, fast. That's the change that's going to come. If you don't address this, you will be left off, and you will spend a lot of money. But no, there are few people who have time. There are few people. I agree that every customer is unique, but by and large, majority would not have time to experiment, time to have, there will be no patience. They want to quickly address their needs. And you see the younger generation, again, they don't go to banks. They don't go to branches. They want quick outcomes and faster outcomes and accurate outcomes.
So in past, this public sector bank, they were very lucky to have loyal customers.
Yes.
So even if you don't give good service, they will come back to you. But now time are changing. Like Arun told, this now users are young. Okay, they want a good customer experience. So earlier customer used to come to bank. Now unless bank now goes to them, they will go to other place.
Right.
So now bank has to look into what are the new technology, what are the new innovations to reach to the customer. Unless bank does that, bank will lose the customer.
Let's hear from UiPath. What do you guys think? Your own R&D that you're doing. What is the kind of alignment that you're seeing with the trends that these guys are talking about?
Time to delivering real value to customers who are impatient, who want quick solutions, don't want to really scribe through multiple screens. We have added a very important capability in the last release, which was communications mining. So we have understood the relevance of business communication that the banks or the financial services industry receives through multi-channels, right? Email, chat, messages, phone calls. All of this is posing an immense challenge to you guys to really service the customer in real time. So communications mining gives you that capability to really process all of this information in a jiffy. And when I say in a jiffy, I really mean it, because it's real time, fast. There are machine learning models acting, in the background, and they give you real insights, and to Anisha's point that the bank needs to deliver some experience quick, deliver a value quick to the customer. This is how we do it. Communications mining kind of leads you into that. And of course, our previous capabilities around unattended automation that already exists could take away some of these tasks. We'll deliver immediate insights into what this data means for you as a bank. So UiPath has been very proactive in adding this capability into the platform story, because we understand that just delivering automation will not deliver value. We have to also use the customer data that you get through these multiple channels into actionable insights, into actionable work for the bank that could improve some of your business outcomes. So we're clearly shifting away from FT savings delivery perspective to a business outcome based thing, and this capability is kind of putting us ahead of a lot of other solution providers in the same space.
While transactional data with any organization reveals certain kind of insights, what we communicate perhaps reveals much more about the customer and his or her likes or intentions or preferences and those kind of things.
And I'd like to add just that it is not that you would spend years to implement something like this, then the whole purpose is defeated, right? So you have to move quick before some other solution comes to disrupt the market. And of course, we'll talk about ChatGPT. Somebody did speak about it. Yeah. We do have a point of view on how we could leverage it or how we should not leverage it. But yes, customer experience is important, and time to delivering that value is important. So we are on that journey with you together, delivering capabilities that can help you achieve that.
Yeah. One of the key things, which we also want to do as a platform provider, right, is essentially understand what are your challenges, right, and make solutions more contextual, right. I think Sundar had a great point: speed and simplicity, right. So today there are a lot of technologies which are already available in the market who might be doing the same thing, right, but then do they provide you the same thing at the right speed and in a way that you can actually consume it very, very quickly, right? So I think from our perspective, you will also see that we are going to invest in a way that we create solutions which you can actually implement very, very quickly in the market. So like I think Pamela mentioned around communications mining. How do you actually create solutions which are pre-built for your contact center, which are pre-built for your email channels, which are pre-built for your chat-based channels, right? So that you can actually get day one value, right? So I think speed and simplicity is key. And I think while there are a lot of technologies available in the market, I think we want to be more contextual, just by making sure that we are understanding the right pain points and right challenges, and actually creating solutions essentially to cater to some of those pain points.
Another big issue is people and productivity. We know there's a talent shortage. We know that cost of talent is going up. Talent can leave the organization for very intangible reasons. When you look at people productivity, so we talked about customer experience, but you look at employee experience or employee productivity or team productivity, how do you see, what kind of transformations do you see in that area?
So I think extremely important point with people, and it's actually really well. Somebody said AI, ML, and ChatGPT, and AI, ML is going to be this decade, right? This decade is going to be automation, AI, ML fueled, but people are a very important part of it because it's always been complementary when we look at people and productivity. Now, especially from an automation perspective and the way people have been looking at and adopting automation, the democratization of innovation and automation through citizen-led innovation, especially with the low-code, no-code movement, wherein every person or at least techno-functional person can actually go and implement some of these automations or some of these innovations themselves in an agile manner, as you said.
Okay.
You don't have to go in the traditional way to a central IT department and request for time and make changes, right? So for some of the smaller tail end automations, you have the power at your fingertips to do some of these automations on your own. And this is also improving their morale, right? They're upskilling themselves digitally as well, because some of these guys coming in at millennials, Gen Z, want that sort of experience to do things quickly, right? They don't want to be centrally dependent on an IT team, etc. And they also want some of that understanding and knowledge being available to them at their fingertips, right? So that entire employee experience is equally important when we look at them driving some of these changes internally in their own functions, because IT team centrally outside can do only so much. But if you have the people within, and since they are closer to the customer and closer to the processes, they bring some of the subject matter expertise. And if they can bring those ideas and innovations, and if they can bring those ideas to fruition much faster using some of these new age products, including UiPath, then some of that speed and simplicity also becomes a reality, right? So
And
that's
I think
what
they
we're
can
seeing.
personalize it also.
They can personalize
because
it as
if it comes
well.
from a central IT, it will be very templatized.
Yes, and ultimately everybody wants to sort of understand this and have this and be a part of this rather than just depending on a central team or an IT team or a COE team to do it. Can I have the power to make some changes? So change management, for example. I mean, if I needed to do some change management on a solution, I needed to go outside. But now I have the power to quickly do it, deploy it, and do rapid DevOps with myself rather than going across the team.
Employees has to be treated as a customer. Today, whenever we talk, when it comes to the tech automation, employees also like a customer. For example, I have fund managers. Okay, when they decide to buy or sell, they do a lot of research. They do a lot of refer papers and they listen to this, what's happening. You can see the trade terminal is going on. And there is something called algo trading. But then you have to lift algo trading also now. It is still has to be matured to that level to help him to take a decision. So technology like UiPath bridge the gap between the processes and the technology which is already in place. And the idea is that you look at any process, okay? And if you look at the process and read the process, you will find the process that maybe 50 to 60% of that process is already automated. The 40%, where is the gap, has to be first identified. And then look at the technology. How do I, implement technologies like UiPath or now things like digital DAP, digital automation platforms. These are the ones which are coming up very fast.
It's not about the just the process, but productivity has become more of a kind of ask now. Because if we were to look at a top-down kind of approach, see today we are living in a competitive world, and all the financial institutions, they would agree that everyone wants to kind of increase their top line and the bottom line. So basically the financial institutions are also looking at to put in more people wherein they can upsell, they can bring in new customers, right, to increase the business balance sheet overall. So what does this imply? This simply means that the people have to become more productive. The tasks which are mundane in the current situation needs to be automated. So there is a requirement that all the processes which are there in the current system, which are mundane, needs to be automated and at a very high speed and a high rate. The X, Y, Z, whichever organization does that faster, they have the better reach. They can leverage their employees' strength by empowering them to do new tasks and to acquire new customers. So it's more of a ask now, or rather it's should be done or not should be done.
Very interesting, because traditionally productivity means the HR department would organize along with the functional head or the business head some kind of training program. So that training, that some technology would go inside the human brain, which would improve the productivity. But now the example that you're sharing is that they can use different tools and techniques and platforms to get that productivity. So there is an option number 2 also.
I think employees today are bombarded with tech solutions, especially the front end and the back end operational stuff. At any point of time, there are 7, 8 new applications coming through, and there's a fatigue that sets in. So there's a challenge on the ground. If you ask supervisor how many things you want them to be trained into, a lot of time, that's a concern. Let's also look at it from the employee perspective. There's a lot of resistance to change, because there's always a fear of obsolescence and then the trouble of reskilling.
Yes.
And the point you were making in the beginning, why there's a lot of attrition. The social contracts, the psychological contracts with the organizations have come down. And then on top of that, you bombard them with these kind of technology solutions. I'm seeing that it's becoming more and more impersonal. That's one thing. Second, from a top management perspective, number 1, the ROI. The rapidity with which the new technologies are coming in and investments are being made. You just look at the last 8 years data, pick up the financials of all the listed financial services companies and banks. You'll find that the number of branches have actually grown at the same rate barring the COVID period. The physical investments continue, and so does tech investments. So the challenge is to really discern how much of it is contributing, how much is tech contributing to my bottom line? Is it saving or not? Because a lot of growth in India is actually masked by the buoyancy of the market. For the GDP to grow at 6-7%, credit will always grow at 15-20%. So how much of the growth is market-led and how much of it is efficiency-led is a conundrum everybody is grappling with. Number 3, if you look at the value chain of the entire financial services space, I think the technology is going to play you talked about automation. If you look at underwriting, a large part of it is data and digital helps save the manual repetitive tasks, the operations, the underwriting part of it. On the front side, I think a lot of movement has happened to pre-approved offers, which again the analytics, AI, ML, etc. is helping to ensure that the feet on street or the voice-based sales forces are able to do better targeting. So I see technology as a big aid to the productivity, but on the fact is we are still seeing the return on investment not be, and therefore everybody says tech is important, everybody is caught onto the bandwagon, but what is really relevant and which part of tech? Because today the challenge with, and this I'm talking from large organizations, there are already multiple systems, and you go to any large organization, you will find at least 3 or 4 applications doing the same thing. So the cost of duplicity is also very high, whether one likes it or not, because by design organizations are complex. So I think some of these aspects have to factor in if we really want productivity to be meaningful.
Does the team at UiPath have an answer to the conundrums that he talked about? Is it going to be easier down the road to see and measure productivity?
Yes. So it's a very valid point. Yeah, it's a very valid point that you guys brought about. So I'm not sure how many of you have been following us for a few years. Since 2012, we have been, our CEO had a vision, a robot for every person, which meant essentially that we would want to make individuals more productive through, automation which is dedicated to them, which they can build themselves or they can consume themselves at will, which will give them that edge of saving few minutes that they want to save every day. We have delivered largely on that promise over the last 7-8 years, I would say. And the platform has evolved to add more capabilities to improve end user experience. Now, I'll be also transparent here. This delivering on the promise has been largely in Europe and America, where saving 15 minutes or 20 minutes of productivity means saving some real cost and giving the company a bottom line boost, as you rightly mentioned. Whereas India as a market, overall average salaries and the kind of price sensitivity we have in this market, we have not been able to really deliver on the promise of giving attended automation to individual users. So, from the go-to-market perspective, Arun and his team and, we all are actually committed to build the story grounds up in India, along with these challenges that you just mentioned about making employees more productive, giving them that experience. Now, India market is very fixated on quantification of the employee experience that they get. We cannot just deliver employee experience which is qualitative, it has to be quantitative. So we are working on metrics that we could work with some customers like you to define what those quantifications could look like. What does a 15-minute saving mean for you from your bottom line perspective? So from a capability perspective, we do have the capability. We have been delivering on that capability. It exists, it's proven. There is no proof of concept required because it's no longer a concept, it's a reality. Some of the large financial institutions in other parts of the world have been leveraging this function by function, trade finance, wholesale banking, retail banking. They have used it in front office and back office to deliver attended automation value to individual users. In some cases, if there are repetitive roles, so underwriters, for example, if they are doing the same thing, there has been a huge cost takeout because of attended automation where an individual underwriter becomes extremely productive, turning around more policies in a day than what 5 underwriters together could do. Yeah, so there has been a lot of traction, but yes, we are extremely committed to this market to bring the story and build the story grounds up. We have started piloting in some of the large banks in India, and we wish to take this story more public, make it more meaningful for this market in the next 12 months.
Anish, I think you make some very relevant points, in terms of tools and the effectiveness of the tools and how they can really make it more productive. Many times the challenge is all about the vision to execution, right? There is a vision, but by the time it translates into execution, it's completely a different thing that happens, right? So probably in the whole thing, in the whole gamut of things, probably we really need to challenge some of the processes as well, which is very important. If I were to just take an analogy, you've got a horse running. You're trying to see how could you have a faster horse running, right? Rather than looking at, can I take a car and go faster from point A to point B? So that's all about process redefinition and reimagining your processes, because that could have a huge implication, in the way you're executing. It's not about just bringing a tool to make it a little bit more efficient. It has to be looked at holistically. Tool plays one aspect of it, the process and other things. And third is and people and the vision and how we are able to translate that vision into execution. So we are committed from all three aspects of it. We really want to be working with you from your vision point of view, and then make sure that it's then translated into execution, and also look at it jointly with you in terms of processes. How could we make processes more efficiency? And that's where we could probably bring in some of the best practices that we have globally come into play here and with customers like you, where we could just come and talk about what are the best practices. Have they been able to really reimagine, challenge, or relook at the processes so that you could become more efficient? So it's a combination of all three. While just putting a tool at this thing is not really going to make a difference. It might bring in a little bit more efficiency. And she talked about FTE, 15% saving or whatever you could do. That's not really going to make meaning for you. The meaningful engagement would be, for your C-suite, would be to look at pure overall what kind of efficiencies you are able to drive and take the cost out. Look at EBITDA, what kind of EBITDA changes that we could bring in because of all the technology implementation. Unfortunately, it's all looked at in silos, whether it's just tool implemented or processes. Yeah, so it has to be all together.
Recently, we did a survey, right? And I'll give some examples. Let me throw some examples. Wells Fargo, one of our biggest customers, 31,000 users at Wells Fargo use UiPath automation, like Pamela said, right? They're saving almost 20% to 30% of the day, work using UiPath. Gautam is sitting here. Gautam can actually vouch. Same case with JP Morgan, where they're using extensive automation. Now, the lens I want to, and I can go and give you hundreds of examples, like UiPath today is a leader in the financial services industry. But let's take a persona-based approach, right? So recently we did a survey of who are the personas who can actually benefit from using the technology, right? So those personas who are doing tasks like research and investigation, underwriting is a good example, like fraud investigation, dispute investigation, right? Client services. In the investment banking and asset management space, you have investment bankers, right? So start looking at those personas who will actually benefit from using this kind of a capability. If I'm looking at the work of a, say, fraud investigation analyst, that analyst is spending 40 minutes, 40% of his day job just pulling data from various data sources.
Right.
Anish brought about a point that there are around 8 applications on average which an employee has. Think about the time an analyst or a person would take in pulling data from those 8 applications. Can I ease that pain? Can I ease that job? Go and ask that individual, look, do you enjoy pulling data, extracting data from 8 applications? The answer will never be yes. Right?
Correct.
So can I make technology contextual? Look at the persona. Don't look at, look, this is one technology fits everyone. Look at the personas, right? And at UiPath, we've actually created an inventory of personas who are actually fit to use this. So I don't want to say that, look, hey, NSDL, I'm going to come and I want to implement this technology for all of your resources. I want to tell you that, look, at your organization, there are these 50 types of personas who can actually consume automation. I think Sanjeevan brought a good example about insurance. In insurance, claims underwriter spends so much time in looking at the various documents before that underwriting can be done.
Right.
Can I actually automate that 40% of the task where that underwriter is looking at various documents, and I can only leave time for decision making for that underwriter, right? So then I'm actually making technology very, very contextual to that person, right? Give him that flexibility of using technology rather than just looking at, from a top-down perspective, what's the ROI or what's the productivity, because productivity and ROI will be a natural outcome if I'm actually looking at the right persona.
A lot of our time is spent using our hands, where in a professional organization like
Just thought I
we
would
are
add
represented here.
What India Stack has done here is far advanced than Western, what West is doing, right? So some of our solutions which we create for West don't actually apply to India. Like you said, underwriting automation might be a large use case for me in US or in West. But here they have already underwritten 80% of the automation. So I don't have to touch that persona here, right?
Okay.
So essentially I need to look at those personas which are, more, makes more sense.
The problem,
here.
as you rightly said, is the multiple systems. Exactly. We have a database system, we have a workflow for risk, we have a workflow for investigation.
Our organization consolidating?
Yes.
IDBI Intech may give an idea.
No, basically there is.
Are we still fragmenting?
Yeah, basically there is a lot of gap that we see. I know just to give an average stats that if we look at a mid-sized bank, okay, not a large-sized bank, not a small-sized bank, a mid-sized bank. Typically, how many applications they would have in their backyards, right? Can anyone make a guess? Basically, a bank, they have around about 500 to 750 applications.
Business applications.
Business applications, right? So you see, and to manage these applications, and that's the pain point Anish was, trying to, bring about, managing so many applications. It's a huge, humongous task, right? So that is where, there's a lot of scope for automation, and there's a lot of scope for, for the players in the market who could actually, fintechs who could integrate these solutions together, bring an end-to-end kind of, a real outcome-based, processes, right? So we need to kind of, relook at, should we require this many solutions? Because as we said that, it's a kind of digitized world and things are moving very fast, right? So while the expectation, the customer expectations that we spoke about, we have to be in the market, and there's no choice, right? So you have, if you want to be in the market, win customer, the UI and UX has to be taken into priority. We talked about social layering and financial inclusion being going off the records, but there is very little that has been done in the backyard. So there is a lot of scope where these systems can actually be reduced, and I think this holds true for most of the organizations in the country today.
Okay. Yeah. ESG is an example of an area that has recently emerged, and as we can see from global forums also, it is gaining a lot of importance. So a lot of discussions on insurance, on lending, on collections, on financing, on supporting, on enabling are going to go through that ESG filter or ESG lens, as you say. And we know that skills in this area are not plentiful, right? They're scarce. It's an emerging area. How do you see using some kind of automation and technology to adopt ESG into SME business, corporate business, retail business, rural business?
I'll directly come to the point on what banking sector could do and like why it is needed. Like after working like on the green bonds, those are the synonyms of ESG bonds. There is a concept of greenwashing. Like you issued a bond and later some said that this was not green or the proceeds did not go to green. So what regulators like first they were investors and lenders and then the regulators. Everyone is asking about the disclosures. One is the one-time disclosures, then the disclosures on the periodic basis, annual basis, quarterly basis.
Okay.
And currently, these disclosures, those are made to lenders or investors or regulators. Those are made by the auditors. Like
Okay.
whether the proceeds that you got on the name of green bonds for the ESG bonds, they are actually being employed over there. And again, there is one part, and second part is there are different taxonomies who provides you the certification whether the bond is green. There are EU taxonomies, there are Chinese taxonomies, there are CBI taxonomies. So what I emphasize that there should be some scalable process that can on the one both the fronts on the issuer front or the borrower front as well as the on the auditor front or the verifier front that these disclosures, those we are making, they could be simplified. So some technology, some innovation where they're so scalable that, I'm using one taxonomy and I'm making these disclosures and those disclosures could be made more easily, more simplified way and they can be verified again on the, by the regulators and by the different agencies. So that's
the
how
solution needs to be across the ecosystem.
Yes, no.
And not just within an organization.
Yeah, no, not only on the it should not simplify the life of the person who is doing the verification, also the person who is doing the disclosures. And once we have such solutions available in the market, like because people are worried about if I should not do anything wrong. I got the money on the name of ESG financing, and later on, if I greenwashed, I will not be getting the money at all.
Correct. Understood. Yeah, that's an emerging problem. Like India, for example, I think our Prime Minister has said that by 2070 we will be.
We want to be carbon neutral. Yeah.
Yeah, carbon neutral.
Let me give another perspective.
Yes, please.
And you said rightly, in the value chain, how much carbon is imitated. So when I'm using a search, Google search, there was a good study. When I do a Google search, is the carbon emission is only on your mobile, through your mobile or back end also? What you said.
Data center, yeah.
Right. So government is now, very, very hardly it is pushing that. And there was a study, sorry to say, but please don't quote. A Dell laptop and Apple, they measured the carbon emission, and the result were like. So everybody, when it comes to social, okay, human, so everybody will look at, even it is bit costly, I will go that because it will not harm
Correct.
humanity.
People are conscious of that.
Conscious. And that is why government also is taking a lot of initiative to pass credits to those who really save the social environment. Okay? So things will move very fast and there will be a lot of policies because I am a part of a government policy in one of those Scotch.
Okay.
So a lot of things get discussed there and then lot of things, and that is why I am saying what were the figures. I would not rather quote those.
No, that's fine, that's fine. But what is the technology as support or enablement for ESG?
This year around, government has, or rather our regulator has asked 1,000, the top 1,000 companies in India to actually prepare an ESG report and submit, right? So the first time that actually India has taken the BRSR report, exactly, right? Yeah, so that essentially asks the top 1,000 companies in India to actually report their scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3 emissions, right? Now, let me also bring in a perspective why financial services is so important. So, scope 1 and scope 2 is your own emissions, right? So, I as an organization, what I am emitting, I'm responsible for that. But scope 3 is what your, whole ecosystem is emitting as well. Now, financial services in itself is responsible for so many things because you're lending to so many people, right? You are actually working with so many people. So you are actually influencing such a big ecosystem and you have to actually report for all of those ecosystem as well, right?
Oh.
So that is, and which is why you will see that for financial services, this is such an important point because scope 3 is such a complex and massive problem to solve because today if I am looking at the loan portfolio, right, any business loan portfolio, they have to say that this portfolio is having this much carbon footprint, right? And they have to actually regulate how much carbon footprint they can actually have. And as part of the net zero by 2070, all of these organizations have to make sure that their scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3 emissions are net zero, right? So that essentially, and I actually want to ask this question to all the leaders sitting here. Where are you as an organization today sitting in terms of measuring your scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions and reporting your scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions, right? And I'll come to the sustainable financing part, which I think Weber mentioned earlier, because that's again a bigger problem, right? Because today, if you look at the whole lending system as a whole, right, it never actually included any kind of, green parameters.
Correct.
So it's a whole paradigm shift in which you'll have to actually look at organizations to whom you are lending, right? Are your systems today doing those measurements? Do they even have fields to kind of, take as input those parameters?
Correct.
So again, maybe I'll bring the UiPath perspective later, but I just wanted to hear from the leaders sitting here how prepared you are when it comes to reporting scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. Second, how prepared you are to actually, measure your sustainable financing goals as well.
In terms of technology, is it, do you already have things or are you going to create things? Or are you going to tweak what you have to do this?
And which is why I was saying, see, I want to bring the UiPath perspective later because we are already having few things. And I think someone already mentioned earlier, integrations. A big part of this reporting is how you integrate, right? So because all of this data, so like for example, your scope 1, scope 2 is essentially your electricity and your water consumption, right? Are you looking at all your bills and, pulling up all of that data and then kind of defining that this is what I'm measuring today as an organization, right? So right now the problem is, and India, for lack of better word, is actually little behind when we look at our Western counterparts in this space, right?
Okay.
And we still need to do catch up. Like I said, we have just, our regulator just said that, the top 1,000 companies start reporting. However, in West, the reporting has already started for a lot of major organizations, right?
Okay.
So again, from our perspective, UiPath obviously is very well positioned because we have built those integrations, which allow you to pull data, pull the relevant fields, which are required for you to report as part of your, regulatory submissions, right? So that is number one. Second, I think we have also built solutions where, across your sustainable finance value chain, you can actually look at UiPath, to introduce more efficient. So I don't want to say that we are building a system, right? Because that's a massive job. I can actually complement your existing systems, bringing UiPath as a capability so that you can actually be more flexible in terms of defining those rules around green financing and sustainable financing.
How are BFSI organizations integrating all of this to be able to take the pain out of, this whole diversity, that you're not stuck that I can do this only in office, I can do this only in the data center, to give that power, but also not to ensure that it doesn't get abused, Any thoughts on this?
But going forward, the new scenario would be that you need a hybrid model, be it cloud or on-prem solution, and be it you work from home or you work from the office. So everything is kind of switch into a new situation, and good opportunities for technology guys, and people who do a lot of integrations, and maybe the insurance and the bankers can also give their perspective, because it is the new norm. That's it.
Sundar, any specific
COVID
observations?
has added to this trigger actually. Brought up a lot of challenges from risk, security, legal, and regulatory perspective, because how do you then guard the work from home? For instance, investments. In the COVID era, the investments personnel were at home dealing. How do I ensure nobody else is there? How do I take care of insider trading? Do I do visualization of where he sits and there is nobody there? Do I take a screenshot? And we added something like 46 additional technologies required
Wow.
in the insurance era. This came as a circular from the regulator. 40 or 30, 42 additional technologies or processes.
Already there are 750 applications.
So it is challenging, and but we are going through that actually. And I think many organizations have reacted to COVID in a very, very effective manner. People have added VPN, people have added controls to remote access, and also strengthened the access controls and security required. At the same time, produced those outcomes that organizations are looking for. We had meeting every day during the COVID era. In VC, so in soft,
Of course.
not VC, so I mean using the software. So that was very effective. Very effectively, we could manage how many policies are drawn, what are the areas, So I have 700 odd branches, which means going into taxonomy of various parts of the country, who should be open, when, how the police would react. All that was plotted. Because some policemen didn't allow, some policemen allowed. The municipal rules would apply to the central government rule. We were treated as an essential commodity or essential service by central government, but the state government and the local would override that. So luckily nobody went into jail. Nobody got one or two incidents in somewhere in part of the country, but we maneuvered it and managed it well. So integration is key of infrastructure and apps. How do you integrate in the new environment, the challenging environment? How do you integrate and then ensure you comply?
Okay.
Regulator also asked us to furnish a paper on what all the risks we have taken additionally, and that was approved by board, and I submitted it to the regulator. These are the additional risks that we've taken, and then now they're monitoring it. Now, are you still continuing?
Okay.
So,
so it's a new chapter has started.
The new chapter is read. So it is quite interesting.
Right. I think risk, enterprise risk, and audit of that. So I agree with him. I just wanted to share my experience. So on the infrastructure side, I just wanted to put on the table that any digital automation, when we did a study with Accenture in 2018, there were 23 initiatives. And what was the priority in that? So UTI was being like a very old entity, running erstwhile server rooms. And that is the time we said that what approach we should take now. That because data center running is not our business, right? The cloud emerged, the data center service provider emerged. They were matured. So everything moved into the cloud. Okay, we set up private and public cloud. Two things we kept in mind. One is, when any digital automation or technology we want to consume, can my infrastructure scalable and agile to consume that? Okay. So we adopted public cloud as AWS, that was virtual public cloud, and we took on the virtual private cloud, because certain things you cannot move on the public because of the regulatory compliances. So that portion was on the private. Others we moved on that. We stitch everything. So DC and DR, so 4 data centers, and one small in R. So we felt that any digital transformation has to set up with a base of infrastructure, strong, agile, scalable infrastructure, secured, and then any automation, whether you ride an AI, ML or RPA, it has to complement. It's like we are buying a Ferrari. It should not be a road like Indian. You will not get that experience. So I felt, let me put that thought process. Thank you.
I'd like to hear how UiPath went through this hybrid and work from home and office and everywhere as an organization, because you're probably present in many continents, you have thousands of employees. you may not be targeted as an essential service. Maybe some parts you were, some parts you were not. You have different people with different cultural backgrounds. What was the learning and experience? What was the experience and learning?
Question about hybrid workforce. We were already a very, very hybrid in terms of being present, partially in office. The field people are always on the field, and the essential functions like the industry support, like the Nitin's team or any other horizontal functions, they were always remote and globally supporting.
Okay.
Yeah, so UiPath's India legal team sits in Romania.
Huh?
So,
Wow.
so we do have a lot of.
You speak the same language. Forget the laws. First is.
No, we do, and we do have these kind of hybrid models quite in play, and hence when COVID hit us, business was as usual. In fact, we innovated a lot in consuming our own champagne. Like we started automating our own internal processes quite a bit to achieve efficiencies from a workforce perspective, making processes more agile, more efficient. But I would like to pivot a little bit on a different point from an infrastructure perspective. As a platform, we started pure on-premise, in 2012, and then we moved into, in 2017, we pivoted a little bit towards cloud, and we saw a lot of traction from all our consumers moving their workloads to cloud. And we were trying to look at those intervention points where our platform could bring in value during the cloud migration program. So we decided to go hybrid ourselves. So today we have multiple deployment models. You can be a pure on-premise automation consumer. You could be on cloud, and cloud could be of any choice. We have extreme governance capabilities built into the platform to ensure the cloud you choose, we can complement that same infrastructure and exist on that infrastructure, coexist rather on that infrastructure.
Okay.
And we have a pure cloud offering. And while the consumption part was on cloud, the development part was largely on-premise. Again, we pivoted last year. We said, okay, why not move the development part also to cloud? So we right now have native tools on a web browser that could be launched by a developer to build automations on cloud. So it's a full cycle for us. We started with a consumption story where users could consume this automations on cloud, and now the developers could develop on cloud, and the entire deployment could be on cloud of your choice, of course.
The server also is in India or outside? Because you have the localization rule.
Yes, yeah. So depending on which cloud provider you choose, either they could have an outpost here, or they could have a VPC. And then some of the cloud providers, the nearest was Singapore, but because of GDPR, we worked with Azure, we worked with AWS to have data centers. If not data centers, at least the outposts that could exist here where your local workloads could be managed. So we are on a journey, and we have made quite it's a big stride for us, because moving development to cloud was not an easy one. Moving consumption to cloud is easy because you can consume it from anywhere. But moving the entire development piece to cloud was a major growth area for us, and we take pride in saying that we have really made a big shift there.
I'm just curious, among all your customers in the financial sector, PFS sector, is your solutions being used more on cloud or more on on-prem, or
So
50-50 or what?
No, so primarily I think financial services still on-prem, right?
Still on.
But the movement is very fast to cloud, right? So in last 3 or 4 years, I think there's a huge shift in terms of movement towards cloud, right? So like 4 years back, cloud was no. Don't even talk to me about cloud. Now we are seeing that, most of our customers in India are actually asking us, look, we are looking to move towards cloud. How do your technology support us when you... So there are actually two aspects to this. So one is we actually help expedite your movement towards cloud, right? Because when all your application, like, sir mentioned, 750 applications moving to cloud, can you imagine how much, amount of effort it is going to move all those applications? So even during this movement, there's a lot of effort. So one is we are actually automating some of that effort of helping you expedite your movement to cloud. That's number one. Second, from our perspective as well, a lot of our automations can run on cloud as well, right? But then there are aspects around data security. If an automation is running on cloud, am I exposing my customer data, or what data can I expose and what data I can't expose, right? So all those aspects have to be taken care of, and we are actually working with a lot of, especially in financial services, I think those are the primary concerns which we are also taking care of as well, right? So yeah, that's our kind of
Okay.
another and I think angle I would say, especially in COVID, the whole PII data masking became the super important use case for us, because like Sundar mentioned that everyone is working from home, and with all these 600 applications to which they might have access to, you need to make sure what someone can see or what someone can't see, right? So PII data masking became super important for me, right? So we did a lot of that with BPOs, with a lot of captive organizations, and with a lot of India-based
Okay.
banks who were actually whose workforce was actually working from home, right? Second is the whole self-servicing piece got accelerated, right? So like I think Anish was mentioning today, if you look at the way Indian banks are digitizing, most of the journeys are self-servicing in nature. So how many journeys I can increase, and make self-servicing, that also determines, because today my customer is sitting at home as well. So it's not just my employees, my customers are also sitting at home. So how can I again accelerate the whole self-servicing nature of my business, my operating model? And that's where again automation complements, because there are some simple journeys which you can obviously automate quickly, but then there are more complex journeys where you will need someone like UiPath who integrates with all your applications to actually make more and more journeys self-servicing in nature.
Right. Interesting. So we talked, let's in the beginning about customer experience, making it simple, fast, and like Anish said, empowering the customer. But on the other side, there is product development. So one part of innovation is CX. Another part of innovation is coming up with suitable product offerings, depending also upon what the regulator is opening up. Regulator is becoming more and more liberal in this space. How do you see financial organizations, let's simplify this, automating or making it simple, the process of product development, of testing it, of rolling it out? Are you finding ways to simplify it?
I actually employ an actuarial firm to perform a pre-launch audit and give me a sign-off. Then only I sign off, because my sign-off is required, unfortunately. So it's so complex that
So how are you simplifying it?
yeah. So they perform a pre-launch audit at the requirement stage. That's why I have an actuarially, technologically oriented firm auditing that. Because they're technological also and actuarial also. They have actuaries who are technologically enabled and capable of going through the product modalities. The product had two levels of transformation, one in 2011 or 12, another in 2018, which means all products were changed overnight.
Oh.
This is again not industry's job, it's a regulator's job. And we had a time when we don't have any product to sell because nothing is regulatorily allowed. So I have to rush. So there is no day two requirement that's taken care of at that time.
Okay.
And I paid something like 18 crores payments later, some 6 years later, to policyholders of the back, retrospective effect. I mean, when board looked at this, they said, what nonsense is this? I said, I have not created this nonsense, this is regulatorily created. So then now what we've done is we've used this kind of technologies and processes and coupled that with the actuarial audit, that I do a software security audit as well as an actuarial audit beforehand to ensure that all parameters are appropriately taken care of. There could be something like 180, 200 parameters in a product, in an insurance product. So all that gets taken care of beforehand before we launch. At the same time, we have a problem with CEO saying, Sundar, I need this next month. Sundar, I need this. So you have to go through lots of modalities. It's tough.
Anything from banking?
Yeah. So our bank is having one internal development team, actually, who have developed more than 300 applications for internal and external use. So recently we have adopted DevSecOps for adopting agile methodology. So that's being taken care. So where actually you mentioned risk. So along with the planning, coding, and we are also taking care of this risk part, risk and security. So in a very short of period of time, we are able to roll out new product with that.
Okay.
I think he concluded. So it's not liberal. Let me tell you, it's not liberal at all. There's a circular from SEBI. It says that any new application or modification has to undergo regression testing.
Okay.
So regression testing means UAT, functional testing, logical testing, performance testing, so many aspects. And we said that, sir, internal application, why do we have to have performance testing, load testing? I mean,
It's a running car.
I mean, it's not liberal. That's.
I would say it's necessary. These are some best practices. I think high time, tech products follow these in BFSI space. I mean, I worked in manufacturing. I remember if you bring out a car and if there's a defect, you can't roll it out. But we are okay to roll out defective apps. Some time back, we were saying treat employees as customers, then why will we not do internal testing thoroughly? I think the challenge is to transform from a monolithic organization to a platform driven. I think that's a change happening. Monolithic architecture in technology is creating bottlenecks and speed issues. Second problem is, I think it touched upon Agile. I think most organizations I see are trying to move towards Agile, though very few understand Agile in true spirit. I think unfortunately it often becomes abused by saying I'll not document because I'm following Agile. But that's not Agile. So I think that rhythm is coming in. And I think third thing that's in product development, the role of product manager. I think that's undergoing a lot of change. Typically, product managers have been P&L people. They understand product, develop, the risk aspect of it or, the customer aspect of it. But when we talk about product development in a tech context, the digital product manager is somebody who understands design thinking, is somebody who understands, the old concept of BA is going away. Even if you are working with partners, how do you translate your requirements in very simple terms with failure scenarios? I think those are skills which are missing quite substantially in the industry. It's something that exists in the product tech or startup environment, not so much in the established organizations.
Okay.
So that's a change that's going to happen in the next few years. And once that happens, the collaboration comes through, because most of the organizations have this challenge of silos, and that's why we have 700 plus applications. So
Yes.
the whole concept of creating garages, creating pods, that's a big change in the hierarchical mindset that most Indian organizations typically have. So, we are undergoing all of that change. I think it's happening. It's just that people are figuring their ways and means of working out, trial and error. But I think product development is a very interesting space to be in right now.
It is.
It's just that we are yet to find the right, it's like unlocking the proverbial lock.
Okay.
People are figuring it out.
And what kind of role play is there for a tech firm like you?
Every aspect of the development and the deployment could be accelerated using automation. There are different areas, there are different automation as a whole can enable the development to quite a large extent. We have specific capabilities, like you mentioned regression testing, right? So testing as a capability has been added to our platform. Going back to Arun's original point about being a true business automation platform, not using it just for tactical RPA stuff, we are using it for every aspect of your business, product development being another key aspect where you could use it for testing all your apps. We do have a lot of success in this market with testing around mobile application testing, where new mobile capabilities are being tested through rigorous cycles for, of course, for end user, like customer consumption, but doesn't stop us from using it for any other areas, like you mentioned about internal applications, launching other business applications. So, we could probably re-engineer the entire product development lifecycle using automation as an automation fabric. Look at it as a fabric which can really connect all aspects of your lifecycle. We do have capabilities in automating your entire DevOps life cycle as well, deployment, product, the product manager's role could be redefined using automation as an enabler.
That's a very interesting point.
So I'll just bring in a different perspective, right? And why we become so contextual and critical in this space. Because today when I look at traditional banks, and most of us here actually represent the traditional banks or insurance organizations. The difference between a fintech or an insurtech and between a traditional bank or an insurance firm is the technology stack, right? And to create or launch a new product for a traditional or an insurtech is so much more complex because of the underlying applications, right? Because all of the new products still need to hit their underlying core applications. Now, why we become so contextual is because we, like Pamela mentioned, we bring that automation fabric, which one allows you to integrate with your underlying, core banking application stack. Plus, we also allow you to test all of that, right? So that whole continuous testing has become very, very important. So today, if I look at the difference for a fintech to launch a new product is so much easier because they can test faster, launch faster, fail faster, and come back and re-engineer faster, right? While for a traditional bank or insurance firm, that fail fast is going to take a lot of time because their underlying integrations are not very simple, right? And that is where a technology like ourselves, which allows you not just to integrate but to test in a continuous basis, very very fast, simple, fast, easy, and again allows you to launch products quickly and then come back and reshape your products again if that is required to be done, right? So that's why we are already working with a lot of digital natives, like a lot of fintechs are using UiPath today, a lot of traditional banks are using UiPath today, especially in the digital banking world, right, where they are launching new products. So I think, and that's the USP we bring to the table, where the whole launching part is more easier and simpler and faster with us.
AI GPT, any thoughts on this?
So ChatGPT has become extremely popular and it's like a viral theme across all platforms, right? But we as a company have a point of view on the fact that it is still not business ready. It is a generational AI tool for personal consumption. You could get a letter written, you could rewrite an email, you could probably get some content that you could reuse in your presentation. But how do you take this output into a business process, integrate it with your existing workflow platforms? That still remains a question, and hence, UiPath as a product platform is pivoted on conversational AI so that we could help you process more of your business requests, incoming traffic, into meaningful insights, going back to my original point about communications mining. So we consider ChatGPT as a good personal productivity tool. We still don't consider it to be business ready, and as this tool continues to evolve, we'll see how we integrate it better with our platform.
It has the ability to pick some of that through. So if your employee is not
kind
safe,
of question
right,
you're asking itself
it,
can
it
reveal
will
a lot.
it can reveal a lot and can then take that in, and then somebody else who is not someone who has may get that information. So a lot of times,
One more risk for you.
yeah. So a lot of banks, a lot of the financial services institutions are coming up and putting the clamps on it. You can use it for personal consumption from your devices, but no firm information goes through into some of these things, and that's why it's going to be important that it'll be a personal consumption thing. And the second point is that it's not completely accurate. So don't take everything as holy grail. It also has biases because it has been trained on something which is not very validated or vetted by someone, right? I mean, when you look at a Google search or a Bing search, and you actually are looking at information. Maybe the research analyst is looking at it and then taking a call from a human decision making. Some of the stuff which it gives out, it has to have a human him in the loop to look at it and then take action. So it definitely it saves time, right? You can make a letter, but you definitely need a human to look at it before you can do the next best action, right? Which UiPath can definitely help do the next best action.
We'll be looking at how you integrate this into a business, into the technology. That is one, because it gives a lot of benefit. Coming to the security and confidentiality, let me give an example of Zoom. When Zoom came, it was very supportive because it came when the crisis was there. And people make a lot of halagulla about security. Subsequently, they came out and they say, we are secured, we have encrypted your channel, and it got smoothened. So going ahead, not to bother, we will take care of regulating this also. So
additional benefit of ChatGPT is the training ability. It's a good trainer by itself, but I agree it has to be
train employees
faster. So it has to be, but in the research world and development world, from a security risk perspective.
No, if you just look at technology, intranet came in being in 1970s as APRANET in US. It took almost 3 decades for it to come live. Even AI ML, the origin was in 90s.
Yeah. Oh, long ago.
First work,
AI was long ago.
in fact, actually earlier. ML started in 90s.
AI
ChatGPT is just a fad, personal fad. People are fascinated because first time mass public is seeing what it can do. But honestly speaking, what value will you add by writing poetries and some letters? Nothing, right? So at max, it's going to replace Google search and Bings, and that's why both Azure, Microsoft and Google are investing big time to move from directory-based library to GI. So it's going to change the search world more than anything else. I think we should be more concerned about deepfakes, KYCs, conversational AIs. I think those are the things where AI, ML, or underwriting, predictive analytics, those are the areas which are actually going to get transformed from a banking or a financial services space.
Absolutely.
Or telemetry from insurance perspective, driving health, those kind of things, health insurance. I think this is just a fascinating thing.
There's more.
Long way to go.
What's the CXO wish list? If you look at the next.
So CXO is looking for value, and as somebody said, ROI, right? And how do I get the ROI and not be subsumed by so many technologies out there? So can I have one platform, and UiPath probably fits in there, which gives me a suite of technologies, not only RPA, but it also gives me smart cognitive automation with the IML. It gives me process mining, ability to look at my process, look at workflows, look at building apps or low-code apps in there. And some of these are core digital automation elements. And how do I have some of this coming from one IT stack or one IT partner or one IT team rather than going to 10 different providers, and I want a solution which is holistic. So rather than just being an RPA solution or a low code, no code solution or a mobile app solution. So how do I have an end-to-end solution? And as of now, obviously, because of the turbulent environment, people are focusing more on OpEx, cloud, just to keep things running. But as we move forward, there will be increased focus again on spending on some of these technologies, if we are not already, to see how we can do front-to-back automation as we
Essentially, you're saying
go
down to the basics.
Go down to the basics. Right now, we are spending more on just keeping the lights on, ensure what is there. Okay. A lot of firms, FSI firms, are not looking at new tech or going and doing a big deal there for more capex or more experimentation. At least 2023 will pan out that way. Okay. But as we sort of go forward, we definitely will see people expecting, a solution which provides capabilities across all of these stacks. Right? I don't want to go to a separate AI/ML provider, a separate RPA provider, a separate process mining provider, because the CXO and the IT team themselves don't have the bandwidth to sort of look at all of them and then evaluate the risks, evaluate the ROI. I want one-stop shop, possibly, or maybe 2 or 3 multi-providers to de-risk myself.
Fewer partners.
Yeah, fewer partners, multi-partner definitely, but not a suite of partners as we sort of go forward.
So my wish would be to streamline experiences, better experience, faster experience, quicker experience, more accurate experience. Okay. I've been big user of analytics and regression particularly, and saved lots of crores for the company in terms of predicting what are the false claims or wrong claims that could come. And we've done streamlined process technology around that last 10 years or so. So we save a lot of money through analytics.
Just to touch on this a little, in analytics, is getting the data a bigger challenge or analyzing the data a bigger challenge?
Getting the data wasn't tough. It's more the analyzing
the data.
Analysis. Okay. So we used probability and predictable outcomes. So I had a regression probability of say 15 and above, means don't issue the policy or cancel the policy if you issued. Okay. And say 10 to 15 do investigation and find out what's wrong. We will get people with cancer or some other serious diseases not disclosed in the application. And then 10 and below, give it back to the sales and let them venture with the customer. Sometimes you would have non-contactability and stuff like that. So we diversified using analytics and saved a lot of money. I mean, I canceled so many policies after issuance. So
there's a lot of insurance fraud.
Lot of fraud, yeah. Not necessarily fraud, it's also potential fraud. I mean, sometimes
future fraud.
Sometimes the seller goes and sells, he wants to sell and buyer wants to buy. So it's it's part of the business actually. And that's why you have free look and stuff like that in insurance world. So
actually, I spoke that we adopted cloud. So I feel, or we feel rather, that today is a new revolution of the technology. If you don't catch up, I think you will miss the train. Okay, we are, let me tell you, give it a new perspective to the customer facing assets. we deployed as and when the requirement came since last 15 years, various platforms. We now said, bring it into a single platform because the technology has evolved, make a data strategy, consume data from there, and whichever is the channel has to be provisioned from the single platform. Whether it's a mobile channel, whether it's a web, omni-channel, it has to be from the same platform. So,
technology is a design problem, and I put design into 3 P's: process, platform, and people.
Okay.
So get your processes right, what he was mentioning. Garbage in, garbage out. There's a lot of garbage in, garbage out happening by digitizing broken processes. Number 1. Number 2, on platform side, I think we have to think platforms and not softwares. I don't think it's possible to bring it down to one platform. By platform, what I mean is the design of your tech stack. So you need to decouple various components. You need to have experience layer, which is different. You need to have your middleware, which is different. You need to have a processor, which is different. Your core banking or core solutions, different. Your API gateway, different. So you will have multiple vendors working in different components, but move from monolithic to decoupled architecture, which is a platform-centric, headless architecture. That's a big shift required in India. Third is people. I talked about skills of product managers. I think most importantly, tech is no longer a CIO agenda. It's an organizational agenda. And therefore the organization, just like, in class 6, 7 people, we used to learn geography, history. I think digital and tech basics, I'm sure, is already incorporated in modern courses. It has to be the way of life, just like mathematics is, right? People have to have a digital mindset, business guys. And tech guys need to understand the business outcomes. The collaboration has to be a lot more. That's what I mean by people.
Right.
So eventually it's a design. I think if we get the design right, that's when the ROI and the outcomes will be favorable. And most importantly, every problem is not a tech problem. Physical India is going to be a phygital market. Ultimately, people will not get replaced by artificial intelligence and machines. It's about complementing and getting the best out of both. And therefore, the fundamentals remain the same. It has to be unit economics positive. Customer has to be served a value, and the user should be able to do it seamlessly. Keep the problem simple. I think we are chasing too many jargons and texts.
Yes.
Just keep it simple, focus on the processes, and do few things, do them well. I think execution is a big problem, again, because of the design 3 Ps that I mentioned.
So like Gautam told, my wish would be end-to-end automation. Many times what happens, business department come and they want to automate something. But with available tools, we are not able to automate it end-to-end. Something is missing. We are automating part of it. As I see, UiPath is actually achieving part of it. But in future, I like to see that if one manual process is given, how that is automated end-to-end.
If you ask any product manager, in a BFSI, he would, the CRO would be the least person whom he would be interested to go and talk to, right? He would not keep going and talking to the CROs to request him for giving approvals, right? Because I think he's the best person to understand that. So while we look
make friends with the CRO should be the good policy.
Yeah. So so I would like to put it that simplicity, scalability, and security. These are the 3 things that will kind of define that what exactly is required today by the market overall.
Sounds good, Mahesh.
I think Anish, you made a very valid point. Moving away from monolithic to platform-based approach. And I've seen that based on not only my experience with UiPath, with Salesforce, ServiceNow, and others. Most of the software providers are also moving in that direction. Because they want to reduce the complexity, they want to make it easy, and help you increase the customer experience. In a nutshell, I think we want you to keep the customer in the center of your universe, create those experiences. Remove the complexity in your way you are addressing things, whether it's for your internal employees or servicing your customers. Your ability to really roll out things in a much faster way, the speed is of essence, and everything coming together, and those platform-based approach definitely does help you that. And that's where I think even UiPath has transformed from pure RPA player to a business automation platform. So we are seeing that transformation, and it's a journey, and we'll continue to, as we listen to customers like this and enriching conversations that we have, we're taking these feedbacks, baking it into our product and roadmap and strategy, and we are really going to come and get things better and better. New capabilities are going to be available on our platform. But we are really grateful for everything that we've been able to do for the industry, and that's been possible only because of feedback that we've been able to get these kind of conversations, which has actually enriched our knowledge and understanding of the industry, and we're grateful for that, and we continue to partner, and we are really committed to this market and to overall success of banking and financial industry in, globally as well as in India. Yeah.
Thank you, Arun. We would like this kind of platform to be more impactful. I hope it has been impactful and enriching for all of you. Thank you, all of you, for being a part of this.